Welcome to Worriors, the space where men come to understand not just women, but themselves. Today, we are diving deep into psychological facts about female body language, what it really reveals, how to read it with clarity, and how to respond with strength, self-respect, and wisdom. Men often make the mistake of chasing surface gestures, assuming every smile or glance means interest. But body language is layered, and unless you learn to read it with calm detachment, you will either misinterpret signals or miss the ones that matter most. This is not just about dating. This is about power, presence, and understanding human behavior on a level that most men never reach. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." The same is true of body language. A woman's movements, her posture, her eyes, all reflect the thoughts she is wrestling with, whether she speaks them or not. If you train yourself to notice without obsession, to observe without desperation, you gain the kind of control that men of discipline throughout history have mastered. That is what we are here to uncover. Before we begin, subscribe to Calma Racional, open your mind, and prepare to challenge the assumptions that may have held you back for years. If you want to stand as a man who cannot be easily manipulated, who can see truth beyond words, then this message is for you. Now, let us begin. 1. Reading signals without illusion. When it comes to female body language, the first thing men must understand is that most signals are subconscious. A woman does not always realize the messages she sends, and this is where your strength as a man must come in. Not to exploit her, but to discern truth from illusion. Think about this. How many men today panic the moment a woman crosses her arms or looks away, immediately assuming rejection? Yet Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. A woman crossing her arms may not mean disinterest. It may simply mean she is cold, or she is thinking, or she is protecting her emotions. Your task is to see without reacting, to observe without attaching meaning too quickly. Consider the example of Epictetus, who taught that perception itself is within our control. Imagine standing in a room where a woman is shifting her posture, playing with her hair, and occasionally glancing your way. The average man leaps to one conclusion: she must like me. But the disciplined man asks, what else could this mean? Is she nervous? Is she simply bored and looking around? When you ask better questions, you begin to master the reality instead of falling for fantasies. Here is a mind-blowing question for you. How many opportunities have you lost? Not because a woman rejected you, but because you misread her signal and acted too soon or too needy. This is why patience is your greatest weapon. Female body language must be studied like the Stoics studied human nature, with detachment, with discipline, with a refusal to be swayed by the first impression. History offers another example. Julius Caesar was a master observer. He could walk into a Senate chamber and read alliances by the way men shifted their feet or avoided eye contact. He did not react impulsively. He gathered information until he could strike with certainty. You must adopt this same calm, observational stance with women. Watch how she mirrors your movements, how her pupils dilate when you speak, how her body angles toward or away from you. But never forget, one signal alone means nothing. It is the pattern, the consistency that reveals truth. Modern men too often expect certainty. They want women to spell everything out in words. But wisdom means understanding that words can lie while body language leaks honesty. A nervous smile, a subtle lean toward you, or the hesitation before she walks away often says more than the words, "I'm not interested." The Stoic way is not to rush, not to assume, but to observe, collect, and then act when the truth is undeniable. So the first rule is this: train your eyes, but also train your mind. Body language is a language of truth, but only if you can strip away your own desperation long enough to read it clearly. 2. The eyes never lie. One of the most powerful truths in female body language is this: the eyes reveal what the lips conceal. A woman may control her words, but her eyes will always betray her emotions. Seneca once wrote, "The language of truth is simple, and nothing is simpler or more raw than what the eyes communicate." You must learn to see beyond the surface, to study how long she holds your gaze, how quickly she looks away, and whether her pupils expand when she locks onto you. Think of Marcus Aurelius, who constantly reminded himself not to be deceived by appearances, but to seek what lies beneath. When a woman locks eyes with you and holds that gaze just a moment longer than necessary, that is rarely an accident. Attraction, curiosity, even hidden judgment, all are wrapped up in those seconds. But here is where most men fail. They assume every glance is attraction, and in doing so, they project their own desire instead of reading hers. The disciplined man does not rush to conclusions. He collects evidence, just as a Stoic philosopher collected truths about human behavior. Here is a question for you to reflect on. If you could no longer rely on her words, would you be sharp enough to read her eyes with accuracy? Could you detect the moment she loses interest before she speaks it? Could you tell when she is silently inviting you closer, even as her mouth speaks indifference? Modern psychology confirms what ancient wisdom already knew. Eyes are windows into emotional states. Prolonged eye contact can signal attraction, but it can also be a challenge. Rapid blinking may show nervousness, but it can also reveal dishonesty. What matters is context, consistency, and your calm ability to notice. If her eyes constantly return to you in a crowded room, it is unlikely to be coincidence. If she looks down and smiles after you catch her gaze, that is often her body betraying her true interest. Look to the example of great leaders. Winston Churchill once said, "I have taken more out of alcohol than alcohol has taken out of me." What he meant was that he mastered what could easily have mastered him. Apply that same logic here. The eyes can intoxicate a man, make him lose his grounding, but you must master the gaze, not be mastered by it. Women, whether they admit it or not, use their eyes as silent invitations, as barriers, or as tests. The man who learns to read them without losing his composure stands apart from the crowd. He is not the desperate one misreading every glance. He is the calm observer who acts only when the truth is undeniable. In relationships, it is never the words that truly reveal the heart. It is the gaze, steady or fleeting, warm or cold. Train yourself to see it, and you will unlock a power that most men never access. 3. The power of proximity and space. If the eyes tell you what she feels, proximity tells you what she allows. The distance a woman maintains between herself and a man is one of the clearest indicators of her comfort, trust, and interest. Yet, this is an area where men often fail, because they either push too close too soon or retreat too far out of fear. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." In the same way, you must understand that a woman's comfort zone is not something you force, it is something you read. Think of a conversation in which a woman subtly leans toward you when you speak. She could be captivated, or at the very least, she wants to feel closer to the presence you bring. But what if she leans away, angles her body toward the exit, or keeps physical barriers like her bag between you? These are silent signs of distance. Not always rejection, but signals that you must give her space. The wise man reads this without anger, without taking it personally, and without trying to manipulate. Julius Caesar understood space as power. He knew how close to stand to an ally to inspire trust, and how far to keep his enemies at bay to assert dominance. He was deliberate with proximity. Shouldn't you be just as intentional when you approach women? Too many men collapse into a woman's space as if begging for approval, suffocating her without realizing it. Others remain so distant that they never give her the chance to feel their presence at all. Ask yourself, do you know the difference between being invited into her space and barging into it? Can you sense when she wants you closer or when she needs room to breathe? Men who fail to recognize this often cross boundaries and lose respect without understanding why. Modern studies on personal space prove what the ancients observed. Human beings have invisible circles of comfort. When someone we like enters it, we feel warmth. When someone we distrust crosses it, we feel threatened. Women are especially attuned to these dynamics because their bodies have evolved to read safety signals with precision. If she shifts her chair closer during a conversation, leans in when you lower your voice, or stands next to you in a crowded space, even when she has other options, she is telling you something without words. But if she steps back when you step forward, if she angles her shoulders away, or if she creates barriers, you must respect those boundaries, or you will be seen as a man who cannot read cues. This is where masculine wisdom comes in. The man of presence does not chase or invade. He allows space to be earned, step by step. By respecting proximity, you show confidence. By recognizing when you are invited closer, you show awareness. And awareness, more than charm or bravado, is what truly separates a high-value man from the rest. 4. Gestures, movements, and hidden signals. The body speaks a language more ancient than words. Every gesture a woman makes, whether she is conscious of it or not, reveals something about her inner state. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Look beneath the surface. Let not the several quality of a thing, nor its worth escape thee." This wisdom applies directly to female gestures. What most men see as random, playing with hair, touching lips, adjusting clothes, can be signals that speak louder than her voice if you train yourself to notice. Consider the subtle act of a woman brushing her hair back while she's listening to you. To the untrained eye, it is nothing. But ask yourself, why now? Why while she looks at you? Is it nervousness? Is it an unconscious desire to draw your attention to her face? A stoic man does not assume. He observes the pattern. If she repeats the same gesture every time your eyes meet, it is not coincidence. Think also of her hands. Does she fidget with jewelry when you speak? Does she lightly touch her neck, her wrist, or her lips? These movements can signal attraction, vulnerability, or nervous energy. But only the man who watches without desperation can discern the difference. Epictetus taught, "Man is disturbed not by things, but by the views he takes of them." If you take every flick of her hand as desire, you deceive yourself. If you take none of them seriously, you may miss the truth. The disciplined man strikes the balance. He notices, he stores the information, and he waits for the pattern to reveal itself. History is filled with leaders who mastered reading gestures. Napoleon Bonaparte was famous for noticing the slightest nervous tics in his generals, using them to predict who could handle pressure and who would crumble. You must bring that same keen awareness into your relationships. A woman's gestures are not just habits, they are leaks of emotion, cracks in the armor of self-control. Here's a mind-bending question for you. If every gesture she makes is a clue, how much have you missed in your life because you were too busy talking, too focused on yourself, or too distracted by your own desires? Most men walk blind through opportunities because they are looking at what they want to see instead of what is actually there. Modern psychology supports this. Research shows that micro-expressions and small gestures are often more accurate indicators of emotion than spoken words. A woman may say she is fine, but her tightened jaw or tapping foot tells a different story. A woman may act indifferent, yet her body turns toward you, her legs point in your direction, her shoulders open to you. These are silent admissions of interest. The mastery of gestures is not about paranoia or overanalysis. It is about awareness. When you see beyond the obvious, you elevate yourself above the average man. Women respect men who notice, who understand, and who act with timing. Gestures, when read with wisdom, give you that edge. 5. The voice behind the words. When most men listen to women, they hear only the words. But true power lies in hearing the voice beneath the words, the tone, the rhythm, the pauses, and the inflections that reveal what she really feels. Seneca once said, "Speech is the index of the mind." A woman can dress her sentences in politeness, but her voice often betrays her real emotions. If you are blind to this, you will miss everything that matters. Think about it. How many times has a woman said, "I'm fine," while her voice carried tension, clipped edges, or an abrupt sharpness? The unwise man takes the words at face value, but the discerning man hears the truth. She is not fine. She is holding something back. Marcus Aurelius taught that we should listen with the intent to understand, not to contradict. Apply this to relationships. Don't just listen to what she says. Listen to how she says it. The rise in pitch, the sudden softness, the hesitation before answering, these are not accidents. If her voice grows lighter when she talks to you compared to others, if she laughs more easily in your presence, if she lowers her tone when the conversation turns serious, these are all signals you must learn to recognize. Attraction and emotion often live in the sound more than the speech. Here is a question you must ask yourself. Do you have the patience to hear her emotions in her tone, or are you only eager to respond to her words? Men who rush to reply miss the deeper truth. A stoic man listens with calm, allowing silence to reveal more than interruptions ever could. Think of great orators in history. Demosthenes, the Greek statesman, understood the power of tone so deeply that he trained by shouting over ocean waves to strengthen his voice. He knew that communication was not just words, but sound, rhythm, and presence. Women too communicate this way, often without realizing it. Her sigh between sentences, her breath quickening when you lean in, the way her voice softens when she shares something personal. These are not to be overlooked. Modern psychology proves it. Studies show that tone of voice carries more emotional weight than language itself. In fact, researchers found that up to 38% of emotional meaning in communication comes from vocal tone, not words. If you focus only on language, you are missing nearly half the conversation. This is where self-mastery comes in. The man who is grounded, calm, and deliberate can read the music behind the words. He does not panic at coldness, nor does he become drunk on sweetness. He collects, observes, and acts only when patterns align. This separates men who are easily manipulated by charm from men who cannot be swayed by illusions. Learn to hear beyond words. When you do, you will never again be deceived by the surface. You will know her interest, her doubts, and her hidden emotions before she ever admits them. That is masculine power at its highest form. 6. Posture, confidence, and the language of power. Posture is one of the clearest and most overlooked forms of body language. A woman's posture speaks volumes about how she feels in your presence, whether she is open, closed off, defensive, or intrigued. And here's the truth. Her posture often reflects not just how she feels about you, but how she feels about herself. Marcus Aurelius once said, The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. A woman's stance, her walk, the way she holds her shoulders, all of these are dyed by her inner state. The question is, are you perceptive enough to notice? When a woman straightens her back, tilts her head slightly, and opens her shoulders toward you, she is signaling confidence and openness. If her feet point in your direction, even while her body faces elsewhere, that is her subconscious revealing where her attention truly lies. On the other hand, slouched shoulders, crossed legs angled away, or arms folded tightly across the chest often communicate resistance, disinterest, or self-protection. Yet, here is where most men fail. They overreact to one signal instead of studying the whole picture. Epictetus reminded us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If you panic at the first sign of closed posture, you weaken yourself. If you ignore repeated signals of openness, you miss opportunity. History teaches us the importance of posture in human interaction. Consider Alexander the Great. Accounts of him describe a man who carried himself with unshakable poise, chest lifted, chin high, and shoulders relaxed. Even before he spoke, his posture conveyed authority and presence. People followed him not just because of his words, but because his body radiated dominance and certainty. Women respond to the same signals in men, and they express their own emotions through posture just as clearly. Ask yourself this: when you enter a room, are you even aware of how women adjust their posture around you? Do they straighten when you approach, as if suddenly more alert? Do they lean in closer than necessary when you speak? Or do they retreat into themselves? Most men never notice because they are too lost in their own insecurities or desires. But the man of discipline, the man who has trained himself to see, cannot be fooled. Modern psychology proves the link between posture and emotion. Studies show that people who feel confident naturally expand their body language, taking up space, keeping their chest open, moving freely. Those who feel insecure shrink, hunching shoulders, crossing arms, making themselves small. Women mirror this same pattern when they feel attraction or discomfort. When she feels drawn to you, she will often unconsciously open her body, expose vulnerable areas like her neck or chest, and relax her movements. When she feels uncertain or uninterested, she will close off, protect, and distance herself physically. But here is where your strength as a man is tested. Do not chase her openness, and do not fear her closure. A high-value man does not lean forward when she leans back. He does not beg for openness when she crosses her arms. Instead, he respects what she communicates, adjusts his own presence, and waits for her to realign. Remember Seneca's words: "He who is brave is free." Bravery in this context means the freedom to stay grounded no matter what signal she sends. There's a reason leaders, warriors, and philosophers of the past all emphasized presence. Presence is posture, and posture is presence. When you learn to read her posture, you gain a deep insight into her attraction, her comfort, and her respect. And when you master your own posture, you communicate without words that you are a man of strength, not desperation. Women feel this before they even realize it. The hidden truth is this: women are constantly testing men with body language. They adjust posture to see if you notice. They shift, lean, and mirror to measure your awareness. Most men fail the test because they either ignore the signals or chase them too hard. The wise man observes, understands, and then acts with timing. And in that mastery, he earns respect that words could never buy. 7. Silence, stillness, and the final test. The most powerful body language a woman can display is not in her gestures, her eyes, or her posture. It is in her silence and stillness. Marcus Aurelius taught, "Silence is a lesson learned from the many sufferings of life." When a woman goes quiet around you, when her body becomes still, she is communicating something far deeper than words. The average man panics in this moment. He thinks silence means rejection. He scrambles to fill the void with nervous chatter or desperate energy. But the wise man, the stoic man, understands that silence itself is a language, often the loudest one. Think about this. When a woman is engaged and comfortable, her body is alive with movement. Her eyes dart, her gestures flow, her posture shifts. But when she grows still, when her gaze lingers without words, she is revealing intensity. That stillness may be attraction, testing if you have the strength to hold her gaze without flinching. It may be doubt, waiting to see if you remain calm in uncertainty. It may be disappointment, silently withdrawing without announcing it. The question is, can you hold yourself steady when she tests you with silence? Epictetus reminded us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Silence is a woman's way of watching your reaction. Do you collapse? Do you grow anxious? Or do you embody presence so strong that the silence becomes your ally? Great leaders throughout history mastered silence. Abraham Lincoln was famous for pausing in his speeches, letting silence draw people closer to his words. The silence gave weight to his presence. In the same way, when a woman goes quiet, let your stillness carry the weight of your strength. Here is a piercing question you must face. If she said nothing at all, would your presence be enough to hold her attention? Or do you rely so heavily on words that without them, you crumble? This is the final test of masculinity. Words and gestures can be imitated, but stillness cannot be faked. Modern psychology confirms this truth. Research shows that in moments of silence, people reveal their emotions through micro-expressions and shifts in breathing. If you are calm enough to watch, you will notice the truth. The quick inhale when she's excited, the tight jaw when she's angry, the softened gaze when she feels drawn to you. But only a man rooted in stillness can notice these details. The highest level of reading female body language is not about chasing signals. It is about mastering your own calm presence so deeply that her silence no longer intimidates you. When you can remain centered in the void, she sees you as immovable, grounded and rare. That is what women test for, and that is what most men fail. You have now walked through the hidden codes of female body language, the eyes that betray emotions, the space that reveals comfort, the gestures that leak attraction, the posture that signals respect or disinterest, the voice that exposes truth, and the silence that tests your presence. But remember this. Body language is not about control, it is about awareness. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Apply that here. Read women with honesty, respond with strength, and carry yourself with the discipline of a man who refuses to be swayed by illusions. Most men are blind, reacting to every smile, every gesture, every word, as if it were the whole truth. But you are not here to be like most men. You are here to become grounded, sharp, and unshakable. The Stoics taught that freedom comes from mastery over the self, not over others. When you master your mind and your presence, you will see women clearly, not as mysteries to be solved, but as human beings revealing themselves through unspoken language. The final question I leave you with is this. Are you ready to train your eyes, your ears, and your presence so completely that no signal escapes you? That choice is yours. Subscribe to Calma Rationale, revisit this channel often, and continue sharpening yourself into the man who cannot be deceived. Remember, clarity, awareness, and self-respect are the ultimate power.